So, let me ask you something. How does a major global conflict end up turning a tiny, completely unknown company into an overnight Wall Street superstar? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. It's an incredible story where you've got geopolitics, high-tech weapons, and the stock market all smashing together in a really, really dramatic way.
All right, let's just dive right in with the thing that made everybody's jaw drop. We're talking about a day on the stock market that was just completely nuts, especially for a company that, honestly, nobody had ever heard of before.
So on March 3rd, 2026, a company called Mobix Labs saw its stock go up by, get this, over 530%. I mean, think about that. That's not just a good day. That's a once-in-a-decade kind of number. You just don't see this happen.
Okay, let's really dig into these numbers. The day before, this stock was trading for just 17 cents, a literal penny stock. Then, in one single day, it skyrockets to over $1. But maybe even crazier is the volume. We're talking nearly 1.4 billion shares traded. For a small company, it's an insane amount of activity. The whole market suddenly wanted a piece of it. So the big question is, how? Right? How does this happen? This isn't just a meme stock going wild. The answer, and this is where it gets really interesting, connects one tiny, super high-tech little part to a massive global conflict that was brewing.
So yeah, let's connect the dots. To really get what's going on, we have to look at this company, Mobix Labs, and figure out what piece of news could possibly light a fire this big.
Okay, so who is Mobix Labs? They're what's known in the industry as a fabless semiconductor company. Now that just means they're the brains of the operation. They're like the architects who design these incredibly complex, specialized blueprints for computer chips, but they don't actually own the giant, expensive factories, the fabs, that manufacture them. They design, somebody else builds.
And then, bang, this is it, the catalyst. A press release goes out and it announces that they've just landed a production order from a pretty major client. You know, just the US Navy.
Now look, any military contract is going to be good news for a company this size. But the market didn't just give a little nod of approval. It absolutely lost its mind. And that's because it wasn't just any order. It was for a component in something very, very specific.
The Tomahawk cruise missile. I mean, this is an iconic piece of military tech, right? It's a long-range weapon you can launch from ships, from submarines. It's really one of the main tools the US Navy uses to project power anywhere in the world.
So what does Mobix actually make for this thing? This quote from Naval Technology nails it. They make a super high-reliability filtering component. Okay, that sounds boring, but think of it this way. It's basically a shield. It's like putting a set of noise-canceling headphones on the missile's incredibly sensitive brain. Its whole job is to block out all the electronic noise and interference on a chaotic battlefield, so the guidance system stays locked on and the missile hits exactly what it's supposed to.
But still, you might be thinking, this seems like a crazy overreaction, right? I mean, it's one tiny part. How does that justify this kind of explosion in the stock price? Well, to get that, we have to pull the camera way, way back, from this one company to the entire global stage.
Yeah, because what investors were really reacting to wasn't just this single order. It was about what this order signaled. It was a clue to a much bigger story that was unfolding, a story about America's weapons stockpiles and whether it was ready for a fight.
So here's the backdrop. In the weeks right before Mobix made its big announcement, the US was deep into a major military campaign against Iran, codenamed Operation Epic Fury. And we're talking extensive airstrikes here, as reported by outlets like Breaking Defense.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, in just the first few days, U.S. Central Command said it hit over 1,700 targets. Let that sink in. That is a staggering number of strikes in a very, very short amount of time. And every single one of those strikes uses up a missile or a bomb. And you're not just dropping simple bombs. Hitting all those targets means burning through huge amounts of really advanced, really expensive, and, this is the key part, really hard to replace weapons. We're talking about those same Tomahawk missiles, plus a whole bunch of other high-tech interceptors and missiles.
And this is where people in Washington started to get really nervous. As one expert, Tom Caracco over at CSIS, put it so well, every single Tomahawk you use against Iran is one you don't have for a potential conflict with China. You see the problem? There's only so many of these things to go around. The idea that these critical stockpiles were getting used up so fast, well, that set off some major alarm bells. And this really gets to the heart of the problem, this massive mismatch in timing.
You can burn through your entire arsenal of these advanced weapons in just a few weeks of intense conflict. But replacing them, that can take years. The defense industry just can't build them that fast, and that creates this huge, dangerous gap.
And that right there is why the market went crazy. The smart money saw this Mobix Labs order and didn't just see one small contract. No, they saw it as a signal post. A signal that this little company was now a critical piece of a supply chain that was under incredible strain. A supply chain that was about to get a fire hose of money turned on it to ramp up production, and fast.
But you know how these things go, especially with penny stocks. What goes up that fast? Well, it's rarely the end of the story. And sure enough, just as quickly as the stock went vertical, people started asking some tough questions, and a big dose of reality started to kick in.
Yep, the very next day the stock got hammered, dropping more than 27%. It just goes to show you how much of this was pure speculation. That initial wild excitement, it was quickly followed by a pretty harsh morning after.
And people also started to notice that there was a huge piece of information missing from the company's announcement. This one user on a forum put it perfectly. Why no numbers given? What size are we talking here? And that was it. The company never said how much the order was actually worth. Was this a $10 million deal? $100 million? No one had a clue.
So all of this leaves us with a really big, lingering question. Was what happened to Mobix Labs just a fluke? You know, a one-time speculative bubble driven by hype? Or is it a sign of something much bigger? A preview of a new reality where these small, super specialized tech companies are about to become absolutely critical players in national security, with their stock prices tied directly to how fast the world is using up its most advanced weapons.